The Nexarian Empire had ruled the Orion Arm for 10,000 years. Their crystalline ships, works of engineering perfection, stood as testament to their technological supremacy. Each vessel was a masterpiece of mathematical precision, its hull composed of perfectly aligned geometric patterns that channeled energy with unprecedented efficiency. The Nexarians themselves had long since evolved beyond organic limitations, their consciousness housed in crystalline matrices that they considered the pinnacle of evolution. When their long-range sensors first detected radio signals from Earth, the Nexarian High Command dismissed the discovery as yet another primitive species taking its first stumbling steps into space. They had seen countless civilizations rise and fall, each one failing to meet their exacting standards of advancement. The High Command dispatched a single observation vessel, the Light of Reason, to catalog this new species and determine if they warranted any further attention. Captain 6427 stood at the command center of the Light of Reason, their crystalline form refracting the starlight as they studied the approaching human vessel. The ship before them was, by Nexarian standards, an insult to spacefaring engineering. Its hull was a patchwork of metals and composites, with external modules attached in seemingly random patterns. Thermal emissions leaked from multiple points, and its propulsion system appeared to rely on primitive chemical reactions. "Analysis complete, Captain," reported Lieutenant Van 891. "The vessel appears to be their latest exploration craft. They call it the Armstrong Initiative. Our scans indicate it uses nuclear fission for primary power generation, with chemical thrusters for maneuvering. Their hull is primarily aluminum alloy with ceramic shielding. Most notably, Captain, they still maintain an atmosphere within the vessel. They haven't even mastered basic energy state existence." Captain 6427 would have smiled if they still possessed physical features. How quaint. They're still bound to their biological forms. Record this encounter for the archive of lesser species. Note particularly their inefficient use of space and energy. The human ship drew closer, broadcasting a simple greeting in multiple formats. The message was elegant in its simplicity. "We come in peace, seeking friendship among the stars." They're attempting to communicate through electromagnetic waves, Lieutenant Van 891 observed. "Shall we respond?" "No need," Captain 6427 decided. "Their technological level is far too primitive for meaningful interaction. We'll complete our survey and—" The captain's statement was interrupted by a sudden alarm. Their sensors detected an energy surge from the human vessel, but it wasn't weapon fire or any recognized form of communication. Instead, the human ship had somehow managed to scan the Light of Reason's crystalline structure in detail, using a method that bypassed their advanced shielding. "Impossible," Lieutenant Van 891 declared. "Their technology shouldn't be capable of penetrating our privacy fields. The energy signature doesn't match any known scanning technology." Captain 6427 felt the first stirring of unease in their crystalline matrix. "How did they achieve this? Our shields are based on perfect geometric harmonics. No primitive species should be able to." Before they could finish, their ship's systems detected multiple small objects launching from the human vessel. They were too small to be weapons, too slow to be missiles, and appeared to be nothing more than simple probes. The Nexarians ignored them, focusing instead on analyzing how their perfect defenses had been breached. That was their first mistake. The probes, it turned out, were carrying an array of experimental sensors, each designed to test different theoretical approaches to studying unknown phenomena. While the Nexarians had perfected a single, mathematically pure approach to technology, humans had thrown everything at the wall to see what would stick. One of those approaches had worked, revealing vulnerabilities in the crystalline architecture that the Nexarians had never considered possible. As the Light of Reason prepared to depart, confident in their dismissal of humanity's potential, they received a message. It wasn't transmitted through conventional channels, but rather appeared directly in their crystalline memory matrices, decoded by the primitive probes that had studied their technology. The message was simple. Thank you for the data exchange. We look forward to future interactions. Captain Zix 427 felt something they hadn't experienced in millennia. Doubt. These humans, with their imperfect ships and biological limitations, had done something no species had managed in 10,000 years. They had surprised the Nexarians. As the light of reason jumped into hyperspace to report their findings, they failed to notice that one of the human probes had attached itself to their hull, quietly collecting data about their faster-than-light technology. The humans, it seemed, were far more cunning than their primitive appearance suggested. The age of Nexarian superiority was about to face its greatest challenge, not from a technologically advanced civilization, but from a species that turned their very imperfection into their greatest strength. The Nexarian High Command's crystal spires pulsed with agitation as they reviewed Captain Zix 427's report. The data was troubling, not for what it revealed about human technology, but for what it suggested about their methodology. While Nexarian advancement had always followed a clear, logical progression, humans seemed to embrace chaos as a creative force. Their approach defies all established principles, declared High Commander Rel 001, their crystalline form vibrating with frequencies that conveyed deep concern. They make no attempt to achieve perfection. Instead, they experiment. They fail. They adapt. It's barbaric. The High Command's response was swift and predictable, a show of force to demonstrate Nexarian superiority. They dispatched the Third Fleet, comprising 50 of their finest battleships, each a crystalline masterpiece of destructive potential. Their mission was simple: establish a quarantine around Earth and force humanity to acknowledge Nexarian authority. Admiral Keck 756 led the fleet with absolute confidence. The humans' clever scanning trick with their probes was impressive, but surely they couldn't stand against the combined might of 50 Nexarian warships. As the fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, however, they encountered something unexpected. The space around Earth bristled with satellites, stations, and ships of varying sizes and designs. None matched the elegant perfection of Nexarian vessels, but they were everywhere, like a swarm of insects. Most puzzling were the numerous small craft that seemed to serve no clear purpose, their design varying wildly from one to the next. "Admiral," reported a sensor officer, "we're detecting thousands of individual craft. No standardization in design or capability. Our targeting systems are having difficulty classifying threats." Admiral Keck 756 dismissed these concerns. "Begin the containment protocol. Launch crystal phase disruptors." The Nexarian fleet moved in perfect formation, their weapons charging with brilliant energy. But before they could fire, the seemingly chaotic arrangement of human vessels suddenly shifted. What had appeared to be random positioning revealed itself as an elaborate trap. The small, apparently purposeless craft turned out to be automated drones, each carrying different experimental weapons and defenses. As the Nexarian fleet advanced, these drones activated in waves, each testing different approaches to engaging the crystal ships. Some exploded in electromagnetic pulses, others fired concentrated beams of various frequencies, and still others attempted to attach themselves to the Nexarian hulls. Most of these attacks failed completely. Some did negligible damage, but a few, a precious few, found weaknesses in the supposedly perfect Nexarian defenses. The humans had turned the scientific method itself into a weapon, running thousands of combat experiments simultaneously. Impossible. Admiral Keck 756 declared as reports of damaged ships began flooding in. Their technology is inferior. Their methods are chaos. But chaos, it seemed, had its own kind of power. While each individual human attack might be weak, their sheer variety and number began to overwhelm the Nexarians' perfectly optimized but rigid defenses. Ships that could shrug off any single form of attack found themselves struggling against dozens of different approaches simultaneously. The tide turned decisively when the humans revealed their true battleships. Unlike the automated drones, these vessels were crude and heavily armed. They emerged from hiding behind Earth's moon, their designs incorporating the data stolen by the probe that had attached itself to the light of reason. They weren't copies of Nexarian technology. Instead, they were hybridized monstrosities that combined human innovation with stolen Nexarian principles. Admiral, a tactical officer reported, their crystalline form flickering with distress. The humans are using modified versions of our own crystal phase technology. But they're using it wrong. They're deliberately introducing imperfections to create unpredictable energy patterns. The humans had taken the Nexarians' perfect technology and made it imperfect on purpose, creating weapons that bypassed conventional defenses through controlled chaos. It was an approach so fundamentally opposed to Nexarian philosophy that they had never conceived of defending against it. As the Third Fleet began taking heavy losses, Admiral Keck 756 was forced to make an unprecedented decision: retreat. The perfectly orchestrated formation dissolved as ships jumped to hyperspace in emergency patterns, leaving behind a graveyard of crystalline fragments orbiting Earth. But the humans weren't finished. As the Nexarian fleet fled, they detected multiple human vessels following them through hyperspace, using their own hastily adapted versions of Nexarian drive technology. The humans hadn't just defended their system. They were now capable of taking the fight to Nexarian space. In the aftermath of the battle, Admiral Keck 756 transmitted an emergency message to the High Command. The humans do not seek perfection. They embrace imperfection and turn it into strength. Our perfect defenses cannot adapt, but their imperfect attacks constantly evolve. We have gravely underestimated the power of chaos. The message sent shockwaves through Nexarian society. For the first time in 10,000 years, they faced an enemy that couldn't be defeated through superior technology alone. The humans had turned the very foundation of Nexarian philosophy, the pursuit of perfection, into a weakness. In the 6 months following the Battle of Earth, the Nexarian Empire faced an unprecedented crisis. Their perfect crystalline society, built on mathematical precision and unwavering order, struggled to comprehend the chaos that humanity had unleashed upon the galaxy. The humans, using their crude but effective adaptations of Nexarian technology, had begun raiding outposts across multiple star systems. The Nexarian High Command found themselves in an impossible position. Their sensor networks, calibrated to detect the perfect resonance of crystalline ships, struggled to track human vessels. These hybrid abominations merge organic and crystalline technology in ways that should have been impossible, creating signature patterns that seem to shift and evolve with each encounter. They're learning from every battle, reported strategic analyst Yen 663, addressing an emergency session of the High Command. Each human ship we encounter incorporates modifications based on previous engagements. They're not trying to perfect their designs. They're deliberately making them more unpredictable. The human strategy defied conventional military logic. Instead of building standardized fleets, they deployed vessels in complementary chaos squadrons. Each ship was unique, carrying different experimental weapons and defenses. When one approach failed, they didn't abandon it. They combined it with other failed approaches until they created something that worked. But the true shock came when the Nexarians intercepted transmissions between human ships. They weren't just sharing tactical data. They were sharing jokes, personal stories, and emotional support. Their biological limitations, which the Nexarians had dismissed as weaknesses, seemed to fuel their creativity and resilience. The pressure to adapt forced unprecedented changes in Nexarian society. For the first time in millennia, they began experimenting with imperfect crystalline formations. Young Nexarians, led by the controversial theorist MEX 219, proposed incorporating controlled irregularities into their ship designs. Perfect symmetry has become predictable. MEX 219 argued before a hostile academic council. The humans exploit this predictability. Perhaps perfection itself has become our greatest weakness. Such heretical thoughts would have been unthinkable before the human encounter. But as reports of lost outposts and defeated fleets continued to arrive, even the most conservative elements of Nexarian society couldn't ignore the need for change. The humans, meanwhile, had transformed the scattered data from their initial probe into a revolutionary understanding of crystalline technology. They didn't try to replicate Nexarian perfection. Instead, they deliberately introduced flaws and studied how energy flowed through the imperfections. Each mistake taught them something new. Dr. Sarah Chen, leading Earth's crystalline integration project, made a breakthrough that shocked both civilizations. Her team discovered that crystalline matrices could interface directly with human consciousness, creating hybrid systems that were neither fully organic nor fully crystalline. The resulting technology was erratic and dangerous, but it allowed human pilots to react with impossible speed and intuition. "We're not trying to become like them," Dr. Chen explained to military leadership. "We're creating something entirely new." The Nexarians achieved perfection and stopped evolving. We're embracing imperfection as a path to endless growth. The first human crystal interface pilots demonstrated capabilities that terrified the Nexarian observers. Their ships moved in ways that violated the perfect geometries of space combat, their actions guided by human intuition enhanced by crystalline processing speed. They were unpredictable, innovative, and impossibly effective. But this advancement came with a cost. The interface process was psychologically demanding, requiring pilots to embrace chaos while maintaining mental stability. Many early volunteers couldn't handle the cognitive dissonance of merging with crystalline systems. Those who succeeded emerged changed, their minds expanded by the experience of thinking in crystalline patterns while maintaining their human creativity. The Nexarian Empire began to fracture under the strain of adaptation. Some colonies, inspired by human resilience, began experimenting with emotional expression and individual variation. Others retreated further into rigid perfection, believing that any deviation from pure crystalline existence would lead to their downfall. High Commander Rel 001 watched their perfect society beginning to change and made a decision that would alter the course of the war. They secretly dispatched envoys to Earth, not to attack or negotiate, but to learn. The mission was radical, to understand how imperfection could be a source of strength. As the third phase of the conflict drew to a close, both civilizations had been transformed. The humans had embraced crystalline technology while maintaining their chaotic nature, while the Nexarians faced an identity crisis that threatened the very foundation of their society. The stage was set for a confrontation that would determine not just military victory, but the future course of evolution itself. The Nexarian homeworld of Crystallos gleamed like a perfect jewel in space, its surface covered in geometric cities of pure crystalline architecture. But beneath this flawless exterior, chaos was spreading. The secret envoys sent to Earth had returned with ideas that infected the rigid Nexarian society like cracks in a crystal lattice. The human crystal hybrid ships had pushed deeper into Nexarian space, not just winning battles but spreading a dangerous idea that imperfection could be powerful. Young Nexarians began experimenting with emotional expression, creating art that deliberately incorporated asymmetry. Some even started questioning their species' abandonment of organic form. High Commander Rel 001 faced the greatest crisis in Nexarian history. Their society was splitting into three factions: the purists who demanded a return to perfect order, the evolutionaries who embraced change, and the synthesists who sought a middle path. Civil war seemed inevitable. Then the humans launched their boldest operation yet. A fleet of hybrid vessels, led by the legendary commander Maya Rodriguez, appeared at the edge of the Crystallos system. But instead of attacking, they'd broadcasted a message that shook the Nexarian civilization to its core. "We've discovered something in the intersection of human consciousness and crystalline technology." Rodriguez's message began. "Your pursuit of perfection wasn't wrong. It was incomplete. The true power of crystals lies not in their perfect structure, but in the way they channel and transform energy. We've learned to merge the chaos of organic life with the order of crystalline patterns. We're not here to destroy you. We're here to show you what you've been missing. The human fleet demonstrated their discovery by creating what they called a consciousness crystal matrix, a massive crystalline structure that pulsed with organic energy patterns. It was beautiful in a way that pure geometric perfection could never achieve, its imperfections creating harmonic resonances that spoke to something deep within the Nexarian psyche. But the purist faction, led by the hardline Admiral Vec 890, saw this display as the ultimate threat to their way of life. They launched a massive fleet of traditional Nexarian warships, determined to destroy this abomination and restore perfect order. What followed was unlike any battle in galactic history. The human ships, each piloted by a crystal interface navigator, moved with impossible grace. They didn't just avoid the perfectly calculated Nexarian attack patterns, they transformed them, using the energy of their opponent's weapons to fuel their own irregular crystalline systems. Commander Rodriguez's flagship, the Synthesis, demonstrated the true potential of human crystal integration. As Nexarian weapons fire approached, the ship's hybrid crystal hull didn't just deflect the energy. It absorbed and redirected it, creating cascading patterns of chaos and order that turned the very fabric of space into a battlefield. The tide turned when young Nexarian ships, crewed by members of the revolutionary faction, began breaking formation to join the humans. These crews had secretly modified their vessels, incorporating controlled imperfections that allowed them to match the humans' unpredictable movements. Admiral Vec 890 watched in horror as the perfect formation of the purist fleet dissolved. "This is sacrilege," they broadcasted. "Perfection is our strength. Order is our power." Commander Rodriguez responded not with words but with action. The Synthesis engaged Vec 890's flagship directly, not in combat, but in a complex dance of energy patterns. The human crystal interface allowed Rodriguez to communicate directly through crystalline resonance, sharing not just information, but the experience of human consciousness. For the first time, Vec 890 felt the power of organic thought patterns merge with crystalline precision. They experienced the beauty of imperfection, the strength of adaptation, and the infinite potential of controlled chaos. The revelation cascaded through the crystalline networks connecting all Nexarian consciousness. The battle ended not with destruction, but with transformation. The purist fleet stood down, their rigid worldview shattered by the demonstration of a greater truth, that perfection without growth was stagnation, and that true strength came from the balance of chaos and order. As the dust settled, the Nexarians faced a choice that would determine their future. The human crystal interface technology offered a path to evolution beyond pure crystalline existence, a way to maintain their technological achievements while regaining the adaptability and creativity they had sacrificed in their pursuit of perfection. The breaking point had come not as a military defeat, but as a philosophical revolution. The Nexarians realized that their 10,000-year quest for perfection had been a journey toward stagnation. The humans, with their embrace of imperfection and endless drive to improve, had shown them a different path. 1 year after the Battle of Crystallis, the galaxy had changed in ways that neither humans nor Nexarians could have predicted. The great crystalline cities of the Nexarian homeworld now pulse with organic energy patterns, their perfect geometries softened by deliberately introduced irregularities that created new forms of beauty. Human colonies had sprung up throughout Nexarian space, bringing chaos and creativity to systems that had known only perfect order for millennia. The integration of the two civilizations wasn't simple. Many Nexarians struggled to embrace emotion and irregularity after 10,000 years of crystalline existence. Similarly, many humans found the discipline of crystalline thinking overwhelming. But those who succeeded in bridging the gap discovered possibilities that neither species had imagined alone. The newly formed Adaptive Council, led jointly by Commander Maya Rodriguez and the reformed High Commander REL-001, gathered in a remarkable new structure on Cristallos. The building itself embodied the synthesis of both civilizations, a crystalline framework filled with organic patterns, where rigid geometry and flowing curves created something entirely new. We were both wrong, and we were both right. REL-001 addressed the assembled representatives. Their crystalline form now rippled with subtle emotional expressions, a development that would have been considered heretical just a year ago. We sought perfection without understanding that perfection without growth is merely stasis. Humans embraced chaos without realizing that chaos without structure leads nowhere. Commander Rodriguez, her neural interface crystals gleaming softly, stepped forward. Together, we've discovered a greater truth. The universe isn't a choice between order and chaos. It's about finding the harmony between them. Every flaw is an opportunity for growth. Every imperfection is a doorway to innovation. The proof of their success could be seen in the new generation of ships emerging from joint human-Nexarian shipyards. These vessels were neither the pure crystalline geometries of old Nexarian design, nor the crude functionality of early human craft. Instead, they were living works of art, their crystalline structures grown rather than built, guided by both mathematical precision and organic intuition. Dr. Sarah Chen, now leading the Hybrid Evolution Institute, had made perhaps the most startling discovery. The human crystal interface technology had revealed that consciousness itself existed on a spectrum between chaos and order. By learning to slide along this spectrum, both species were discovering new forms of existence. We're not becoming more like each other, she explained to a group of students, both human and Nexarian. We're both becoming something more. The Nexarians are learning that emotion enhances rather than corrupts their logical perfection. We humans are discovering that our chaos can be guided by crystalline precision without losing its creative power. The changes reached far beyond technology. Young Nexarians began exploring art, music, and literature, infusing their mathematical precision with emotional depth. Humans working with crystalline technology developed new forms of meditation and consciousness, finding clarity in chaos and possibility in order. Even the most hardline purists, led by the now philosophical VEC 890, had found a new calling. They worked to preserve the mathematical beauty of traditional Nexarian culture while helping it evolve. Our perfection was a plateau, VEC 890 admitted. The humans showed us that true perfection isn't a state to be achieved. It's an endless journey of growth. The former battlefields became sites of cooperation. The debris of destroyed ships was gathered and repurposed. The fragments of both civilizations combined to create monuments that celebrated their differences and their unity. Each installation was unique, its imperfect crystalline structure telling the story of conflict transformed into cooperation. As trade routes opened and cultures mingled, a new understanding emerged. The humans' greatest strength hadn't been their technology or their tactics. It had been their ability to see beauty in imperfection and possibility in failure. The Nexarians' greatest contribution wasn't their mathematical precision or advanced technology. It was their demonstration that consciousness could exist in forms beyond organic limitation. Together, they began exploring the galaxy with new eyes. Other species they encountered were no longer evaluated on a scale of perfection or technological advancement. Instead, each new civilization was seen as another voice in the growing chorus of galactic consciousness, another way of experiencing and understanding existence. The victory achieved wasn't one of conquest or submission, but of transcendence. Both civilizations had moved beyond their limitations by embracing what they had once rejected in each other. The future they faced was neither perfectly ordered nor completely chaotic. It was alive with possibilities, growing and evolving in ways that neither species could have achieved alone. As the first joint exploration fleet prepared to venture beyond known space, Commander Rodriguez stood with REL-001, watching their crews, human and Nexarian, organic and crystalline, ordered and chaotic, working together in seamless harmony. "We didn't just survive each other," Rodriguez observed. "We completed each other." Rel 001's crystalline form resonated with agreement. Perhaps that is the true perfection we all sought, not the absence of flaws, but the integration of all possibilities. The fleet departed into the unknown, carrying with them the greatest lesson of their conflict. That strength lies not in eliminating differences, but in finding ways to make them work together. The stars ahead held new challenges and discoveries, but they would face them not as separate species struggling for supremacy, but as one civilization that had learned to embrace both the perfect and the imperfect, the ordered and the chaotic, the crystalline and the organic.